Rebecca Hendricks, and I am delighted to be here. I'll be interviewing Marianne Anderson, the author of Before the After: Love, Loss, and Revolution in the Time of COVID.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's so wonderful to see you, even though it's virtual. We are Zooming this interview, but I'm thrilled to be able to talk about this tonight, and thank you.
You bet, as am I. Let me start by asking how long have you been writing?
Oh, gosh. Well, when I was about 6 and I lost my first or second tooth, I lost it and I wrote a letter to the good fairy. And she wrote back, and then I wrote her back. And we corresponded for about maybe 5 or 6 weeks, and I kept waiting for another tooth to fall out, and it didn't, and then eventually that stopped. But I would say that I started writing epistolatory literature when I was about 6. So, and I've been writing ever since.
You're also an accomplished lyricist, and you've collaborated with some pretty big names in jazz. I'd like to know what's the difference, in your opinion, between lyrics and poetry?
Wow. Yeah. I've known fortunately, some very, very heavy hitters, as you said, in the jazz world who can write notes but not words to go with them as easily. Lyrics and poetry are very different, and they're very similar in a way. Lyrics demand of you a certain punctuation, a certain rhythm. You have to have a certain amount of syllables in each line. Mostly rhyme, but it can be soft rhyme. And poetry has more freedom of motion, it has more freedom in its cadence. But lyrics, if you're going to say, she's so beautiful, you don't want to say, she's so beautiful. You know, it depends on where the notes are and where the stresses are in the actual notation. So I really enjoy writing lyrics very much. I usually ask the composer to give me a title or a theme or a word that I can go on. For example, I wrote one with Doug McDonald on my album Rendezvous. And I said, what's the title? And he said, it's called Your Quietness. And so automatically I could remember and think about actually my husband, because he's a very quiet person. So I could focus my attention on that. So lyrics demand a certain focus, they demand a certain cadence, and they demand syllabication. Poetry, you know, is much more free, there's more freedom, but there's even a big difference between poetry and prose, or many people in my writers group, Cambria Writers Workshop, are authors. And I liken that to writing a novel is like you've got a skeleton and you just keep adding bones and sinew and muscle to it. You keep building it. Where poetry is you scrape away until you just basically have the skeletal information. You scrape away the unnecessary. So all three forms are very different. But you have writers like Gordon Lightfoot, Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, lyricists whose words can be taken out of the context of the music and read as poetry. So in that way they can be very similar. Yeah, it's a very interesting process.
Interesting analogy of using the skeleton. I love that. It reminds me of what they say about sculptures. You just carve away whatever isn't the
What's
horse,
not
and you end up
necessary.
with a horse. So, given that wonderful analogy, do you have obviously you have some of a process with poetry in terms of stripping away from the skeleton. Any other words about any process you follow as you write?
Process. Gosh, it's really hard to say. Inspiration has to be there. And if it's dry and there's no inspiration, then craft has to set in. Um, I always I look at it as exercise. It's exercising the brain. I'm a swimmer, and I swim every day. And I know when I don't swim if for a while, I get back in the pool and I'm rusty. So keeping that wheel in motion is very, very important for me. And a process, what I like to do when I get ideas is I jot down the ideas. Now, I'm not one of these people that has one little notebook with one page for each idea. I have stuff scattered all over the place. I'm a little scatterbrained when it comes to that. But I get ideas and I get thoughts or I get a theme of some kind and I'll jot it down. And then the next morning when I'm fresh, I'll sit down and see what I can do. And then what I do after that is I work it in my workshop, Cambria Writers Workshop. Shout out to you folks. Have been so really, really helpful in my development and in my craft as a writer. We've got some big heavy hitters in that one too. One of the founders was Catherine Ryan Hyde. Locally, we have Sharon Lovejoy, Sherry Shahan, DC Diamondopoulos. She's a pushcart nominee. So we have some heavy hitters, and I can't get away with just, you and blue as a rhyme. I really have to get down there and dig deeper is really the process. And don't be afraid to excavate, meaning take out of the cave, cave, emptiness, excavate deep down there and dig for just the right word and just the right phrase. So I guess that kind of describes my process.
Wonderful. Well, you have things in common with Dolly Parton, who says she'll take any scrap of paper, paper towel. She finds those things in her pocket, and that's the creative process.
Yes.
That many people follow.
Yeah, because you don't know when you don't know when the muse is just going to go toot 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 toot. She's going to tap you on the shoulder, and you never know when. I could be in the middle of doing my laps.
That's a wonderful description. And now I would like to move to things that people have said about your book. And I'm going to start with a wonderful set of words from John Calkins, the author of Dad, Demons, Dames, and a Dwarf, My Trip Down Freedom Road with Mancow Muller. And what he says about your book is, read this book straight through. Images in every poem build on the ones before, to grow poem by poem increasingly profound. Lyrical words firing wonderful images, stanza by stanza, poem by poem, dig an entrance into unexpected depth. Sometimes single words dissolved me through a floor I always saw as solid. And then from Dr. Jennifer Legier, author of Camille Comes Unglued and Dystopia Playlist. Blending humor, disappointment, and wisdom, Marianne invites us to share her travels navigating a world altered by the rise of Black Lives Matter and curtailed by COVID-19. She explores what we have lost and how we transform and adapt. Wonderful words from two great people. Tell me about this book of poems and how it came about.
I wanted to be able to express my personal journey in words that people can understand, and emotions that I wanted to share my emotions with people, the emotions that they were also feeling. I wanted to try to just capture the universal spirit of what we're all going through, no matter what age, no matter what race, no matter where we are in the world. We all experience love, even during the time of COVID. Too many people have experienced loss during the time of COVID. And revolution. We have really undergone I believe a spiritual and a cultural revolution. We have come to realize how important it is to understand and accept each other. And I workshopped it with my Cambria Writers Workshop. Every week for 2.5 hours we meet and worked very hard on workshopping it. And then fortunately, bless her, Linda Reed, Keys Canyon Press, contacted me and said, we'd like to publish your poetry. So thank you to Keys Canyon Press, and thank you to the Cambria Writers Workshop for helping me go through this. As they say, whenever anybody gets any kind of award, you never do it alone.
That is very true. But these are some wonderful poems with your name on them. And what I would love to do is hear some of them. And so tell me where you're going to start in terms of sharing a couple of poems with us.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to start with a poem called Dear Human Race. I don't think I really need to explain too much about this, except that I have always known Mother Earth, or Gaia, to be a body, an organic body. And I would imagine how I would feel if I were treated, my body were treated the way humans have treated her. So this is called Dear Human Race. Mother Earth here. I've been trying to reach you for the longest time. You do realize that I birthed you and care for you. Why can't you behave like good children? Do I have to remind you again and again to wash off that soot? And please, stop bickering over who gets the most goodies. Well, the trees, the oils and minerals, the food supplies are for all of you to share. Please, kids, pick up your litter and clean up your rooms, for heaven's sake. You act as if you don't care. Really? This time you'll be sorry. You'll regret soiling me so badly I can never get rid of the stains. And the way you've cut off my air supply? Well, shame on you. You kids deserve a spanking. Maybe I should flood you with my tears again. Or give you a good shake. Goodness knows, I've tried to warn you. Go ahead. Keep pummeling me with your drills. Burden me with too much weight. Burn away the hair on my skin. But you can't run and you can't hide. You'll pay for this, my undeserving progeny. Why, I can wipe you out with a single sneeze. Better yet, let a rogue germ do it for me. I'll just sit back and watch you perish. I can always make other children, ones more deserving of my bounty. Unless, let me think. Okay, go to your rooms, cover your faces in shame. Isolation, that ought to do it for now. This is your last time out. Sincerely, Gaia.
That was wonderful. I love how you not only addressed Mother Earth with COVID-19, but you also brought in just a much larger sense of mankind and the environment and the chances they've had and the things they've done. That's a nice broad view of what might be her view, actually.
Yes, thank you.
Great. So I think the next poem you're going to read is I Am Thermo King, and I'll be interested in hearing a little more about that after you read it.
Yeah, Thermo King, I could not get rid of the image when I saw news, and they were showing the back area of a hospital, and there were these trucks taking away the bodies because there was nowhere else to put them. So they stored them in these trucks. And these trucks, the company was called Thermo King. And I wrote this, I just could not undo that image when I saw that, of these Thermo King trucks. So I wrote this poem, and it's called I Am Thermo King. I am Thermo King, top of the line in refrigerated trucks, reinforcement for the overflow, in the dark quiet behind the hospital. My load is heavy, my drivers tired, heads bowed, fingers locked in almost prayer, as the attendants roll gurney after gurney into the loading zone. The air is thick with silence, my ice coldness a blessing as the stony remains spend the in-between time in frozen peace while their souls depart.
So once again, you've given a voice to someone else, first Mother Nature, and now the voice of the poem to the truck. Any comments about your choice of doing that?
It just happened. You know, the muse told me to put it in that form, and I did. But then, you know, after a while, I think it was getting pretty dour, and all my poems were really down. And I had sent this, I'd sent one to, I think I sent Thermo King to somebody, and she goes, oh, God, I need an escape. So I wrote the poem Escape as a little, Relief. This one is called Escape. Give me a comedy. Give me sex. Give me anything to get out of this rut. Pills, thrills, calla lilies, sloppy kisses. Give me good hair, fresh pajamas, sunshine, red wine, music to tap my feet to, songs of joy, songs of prayer. This mama's about ready to explode with a hippity hop bop shoobop. Can't try on new shoes, can't stop in for tea, no one to sit with, nothing fits. Come blow me a kiss. I won't tell if you won't. Let's have some virtueless fun. I'll undress if you will. You go first.
That is great. And I'm assuming that falls into more of the category of love when we've talked just in the last poem about loss.
Well, kind of virtueless love. Virtual.
We're getting very good at that.
I hope so.
All right. So now maybe heading toward revolution.
Yeah,
comes the next poem.
Right, revolution. We have gone through such an amazing cultural shift and revolution. It's not over. It's not over. And it won't be over for a long, long time. I wrote this poem to my friend Barbara Barnes, a wonderful, wonderful theater director, writer, African American, because we as white people are born in privilege. We are born not knowing how people feel. We can say, "Oh, I understand. I'm sorry for you, and I sympathize with you and your condition," but we don't. We can't possibly. We don't have the skin memory that these people are born with. That DNA of memory of slavery and subjugation that they've gone through for generations, and nobody's going to convince me that that isn't in their DNA memory. So I wrote this for my friend Barbara, and it's called Blacklash. I felt the belt, but not the whip. After weeks, welts left no marks, but the memory planted itself into my soul like a weed that all the therapy in the world could not eradicate. The lashes they gave your forebears sank deeper. Scars like tattoos, reminders of your subjugation. Generations of memories etched into you like uninvited DNA. I do not fear suppression. I walk the street protected by my armor of whiteness, while you, my sister, always on the lookout, avoid recognition when sirens blare, your streets peppered with shell casings. Head down, quick-footed, your safety net torn to shreds. You give your son the talk. You braid your daughter's hair, warn them of the dangers of wearing the dark skin they cannot shed. And when you rise up, take the whip into your hands and swing so that I may feel the lash of your blackness.
Very moving. And all that we've gone through this last year with the pandemic, and then the tragedy of George Floyd, the protest, and the rise of Black Lives Matter across the country. Obviously, you're drawing on someone you knew. And is there anything else about who your words are directed at in this poem?
It's also directed at white people because we don't know what the black lash feels like. And we have to admit that. No, I don't know what it feels like. We don't know what it feels like. So all we can do is to try to be the best person that we can be, to be kind with others and also with ourselves,
And as you say, it will be a long time before there's true well, we will go through progress and change, and it will still take a long time to get to where many of us would like to get. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what's next? What poem do you have for us next?
Well, it does say love, loss, and revolution in the time of COVID, not virtual love. So I did write a love poem. I was going to say love song, but to my husband. It's called 5 Black Cherries. Back in the day, Mother never asked me what color he was, where his parents came from, or what he planned to do with his young and fruitful life. No. She simply asked, "Does he care for you?" I could still hear her question today. "Oh, yes," I reply. "He brings me tea and 5 black cherries every night after dinner."
Delightful.
Thank you.
I read so much about how to be a good parent and what you want for your children. And I read more and more not to worry about what job they have or what they accomplish, but are they kind?
Are you
Are
kind?
they good to others? And do they try to maybe make the world a little bit better? And I think that kindness quotient is a very important part of how you look at other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice. All right.
Well, the next poem, it's called Just Like Hotel California. And it's a poem. I was watching more news reports and I saw kids at a party somewhere in LA at a big swimming pool in some mansion and just huddled together like crazy. Music blasting, and I thought, oh God, I was so disappointed when I saw that early on. It's still going on too. So I got inspired from the old song Hotel California. You'll be able to catch a few references in this one. It's called Just Like Hotel California. Hey kid, want a party? Take the first left at the top of the hill. Parking $10, leave the keys. The rest of the gang's hanging out by the pool. Hot chicks and cool dudes lift their glasses, bump and grind in the water, music blaring, decibels be damned. Are you having fun yet? It's all a hoax, just old folks dying. Their number's up soon anyway. More room on the planet. There's a girl in the jacuzzi with a nice tan and a rose tattoo on her shoulder who's trying too hard not to make eye contact, but she's looking. Kegs of beer and shots of tequila, nachos galore and Coke in the corner. People move in closer, huddle in the pool to rinse off that sweet summer sweat. All the pretty boys hover under poolside umbrellas, six-pack abs and Speedos on display. You've still got your eyes on that bronze beauty. The party's in full swing. You could stay here forever. And that's exactly what you'll do. You see, we've got your keys, and the exit is boarded up.
Reminiscent of a very great song and discouraging in even your humor that this last year has taken its toll, as you mentioned, the hoax. And there's a lot of history of last year in that poem.
Yes, there is. Everything has been proven. It's science. I mean, if we pay attention to science, then if we had paid past imperfect, if we had paid attention to science. But, here we are, and basically that's all I can say.
Right, because it's not over yet, even as we record this. So, do you have another one for us before we wrap up?
Yeah, I do. We spend a lot of time in Hawaii, on the island of Maui. I have a bumper sticker on my car that says I'm a Maui babe. The only problem with that is that when my husband takes my car out, he feels a little... But I remember in Casablanca, actually every time we land in Maui, the first thing we do the very first night is watch Casablanca. So that's our ritual. So I have this last poem, and it's called, we haven't been able to go back in over a year It'll be about a year and a half by the time I get back. But we'll always have Maui, this is called. And I should tell you two words that I use are Hawaiian words. One of them is honu, and that means turtle or turtles, and mele, which means song. We'll always have Maui. In February, we began to count. Winter took its last bite of sun from the cold gray plate of clouds. Suitcase of memories still unpacked. Awake in palm tree dreams, the crunch of wet sand still ringing in our ears, white powder beach clinging to our toes. March yawned, took its time, then disappeared without a trace of regret. 6 weeks, 5, 30 days till our homecoming. Captives of anticipation, we welcomed April like a newborn. 19 days away, 18. Delay, more delay, unanswerable questions, slow motion nothingness. Our valley aisle's fire flickers in the dim light, ghost of might have beens. She waits for us on the other side of tomorrow, locked in a prison of time. The sweet scent of her plumeria has not drifted into the forgotten past, nor have the memories faded, the memories we lean on when the fog sets in, memories resting in the azure sky, the bamboo forests, honu lounging on the shoreline. Maui waits for us, like a woman waits for her phantom beloved, eyes aglow with verdant light, waits, as always, for the curse to lift, the tide to change. And with a loving sigh, she smiles, strums a soft mele, holds us in her sway.
That is a beautiful love affair that you have with a very, very beautiful place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, a year has passed since you started this and covering the love and the loss and the revolution and how much more we have in common than we're different during these experiences. What do you think has changed since you began this project?
I think what's happening now is we have learned, hopefully, or we have been forced to turn introspective, and in the real sense of the word introspect, spect is to look at, and it's to look at yourself from the inside. We've been so influenced by the outer world, by distraction, by things, by actions, by activities that are in the outer world, and we've been forced to go into our own fishbowl, so to speak. And if you learn how to swim in it calmly, I think we'll be okay. I really do. I mean, and I'm hopeful that all of us have at least made a step in the right direction of understanding. First, you have to understand yourself first. And you have to love yourself and adapt and be kind to yourself. And then hopefully you can move forward with the rest of us like that wave, the cultural wave that the revolution, the love, and the loss all ride upon, and which hopefully will make us a better human race.
Beautiful closing words. So where can we find your book? And any other projects that you've done over the years?
Projects. First of all, the book is called Before the After, Love, Loss, and Revolution in the Time of COVID. And it's put out by Keys Canyon Press, Keyes. Linda Reed is Linda and her husband Ted. I've been doing a marvelous job also helping promotion with this. I've got a new website coming up. Thank you to Julian Mercado, who's also my wonderful videographer. It's going to be coming out soon, jazzmar.com, Jazzmar. One of the poems in this book is called Twisted Redux, and it's a redux of the old Annie Ross song, Twisted, that Joni Mitchell made famous, and I sing it on the video. You can find that on YouTube, Mary Ann Anderson, Twisted Redux, and you can also find a new song that I wrote called When It's Over on YouTube, and again, my videographer, Julian, has done a beautiful version of it, a visual version of that. And so www.jazzmar.com is my upcoming, soon to be up, new website, renovated. You can also go on YouTube to find these things that I've got. And on Amazon.com is the book, and on Kindle. So you can find the book on Amazon and on Kindle. We've been getting great reviews so far. And I'm just so grateful to be alive and to be well and to have wonderful friendships. Rebecca Hendricks, I want to thank you for your wonderful interview tonight. I really appreciate all of the love and effort that you put into everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for asking me to do this, because part of it was I got to really revel in the poetry and understand it even better just listening to you tonight.
Thank you, Rebecca. And thank you, everybody.